So hello, my name's Matthew Wynne. I am Chief Exec of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Trust and are very pleased to be hosting this event for our sector. When I say our sector, we've got people from Cambridgeshire, Peterborough, Luton, Bedfordshire and Essex, and probably some other places that I haven't seen yet in the audience, so you're all really welcome. I think the other thing that's very nice is that we've got people from every single organisation in our local sector and further afield. We've got people from the third sector, from Anglia Ruskin, Health Watch, the list goes on, and all colleagues from commissioning in public health and CCGs, and all are here for one purpose. And the purpose is to understand a lot from this wonderful lady who's hiding behind me. Not for long, for Kate Granger. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand straight over to her. Kate's going to present to us, and then there will be time for questions and answers at the end of it before we finish. So over to Kate.
So, hello, my name's Kate. I couldn't really start a presentation in any other way these days, and I'm going to tell you the story of why that little four-word phrase has become really important in my life over the past 2 years. If anyone's tweeting in the audience, then please can you use the hashtag HMNI, and then we'll collate all the tweets at the end of the day. So I won't think you're being rude if you get your phones out. So we wanted to start every talk on the tour with a little tie to where we are. So this is Chris and me in a punt in Cambridge. It's a good few years ago now. We came in 2008 and we rented a cottage just outside the city, and we came into the city a few times. My only other sort of experience of Cambridge was applying to their medical school as a very young 17-year-old, and I didn't get in. Hey-ho. So this was me a few years later. It's 2011 in the summer. I'm 29. I'm in my third year of training to become a registrar to become a consultant in medicine for older people. And Chris is working his way up the management ladder at Asda. We've got a lovely home, lovely family and friends, we're very comfortable, and our life's pretty idyllic. We're just starting to think about having a family. And we thought we'd take a nice holiday to California, where Chris has family, so we're very lucky that we can go to California at budget prices. And we're in a vineyard, as you can see, because you have to go to a vineyard if you go to California. And it's lovely, we're having an amazing time. But for the fact that I just don't feel well, I can't put my finger on why. I had this niggling right-sided back pain from the point I got off the plane, and I've gone off my food, and I just don't feel right at all. I just feel really lethargic. And I'm trying to carry on with the holiday, and Chris is getting a little bit annoyed with me because I'm not quite able to do all the things that perhaps he wanted me to do. Until the point where we go back to his auntie and uncle's house, and I just go for a lie down, and then he finds me writhing around the bed in agony and puts his foot down as a non-doctor in the relationship and decides it's time to get some medical attention. So we ended up in an emergency room in Santa Cruz, where I was found to be really quite unwell. I had kidney failure, my creatinine was through the roof, and I had some scans to work out why that was. And those scans showed very early on that I really had a very serious condition, and the reason my kidneys had failed were that both my ureters were blocked by multiple tumours throughout my abdomen and pelvis. So bang, out of the blue, at the age of 29, I had a cancer diagnosis. Obviously that was a very tough time. We were really struggling, being so far away from home and everything. I had stents put into my ureters to get my kidneys working again, and we took the decision that we wanted to come home and pursue further investigation with the NHS. So soon after we arrived back in the UK, I was admitted to a gynaecology assessment unit in Leeds, with my presumed ovarian cancer, and I became very unwell again. My stents failed, I ended up with bilateral nephrostomies, and I had a very serious episode of pyelonephritis. During that time, I didn't think that I was ever going to get well enough for chemotherapy, and I was fighting for my life. While all this was happening, the histopathologists were trying to work out what was actually wrong with me. Then they found from the moment they put the slide of my biopsy under the microscope that I didn't have ovarian cancer, and something much rarer was going on. And it took them a good while to work it out, but they did, and they came up with a diagnosis of desmoplastic small round cell tumour, which is a very rare type of sarcoma. It affects 1 in 2 million people, usually adolescent boys, so why it was picking on a middle-aged woman, I don't know. But it has spread to my liver and my bones, and I was therefore in a palliative, non-curative situation. This cancer has an average survival of 14 months, and that was a big decision and things flying around during that time. So as a doctor, I'd had some experience of chemotherapy. I'd worked as a senior SHO in haematology. I'd seen what giving chemotherapy looked like from the doctor's side of the bed. And I was therefore a little bit reticent about putting myself through that if my average survival was only going to be 14 months. But we did decide in the end that we would give it a go. And I had 5 cycles of very intensive chemotherapy. I was unwell all the time. I had febrile neutropenia every time. I needed multiple blood and platelet transfusions. I had bleeding complications. I was really very unwell. But the good thing was that my cancer did respond very quickly to the chemotherapy, and I started to feel much better from a cancer point of view. And there came a point where the burden of treatment was really outweighing any benefits that I felt it was having. So on New Year's Eve 2011, we decided that I was going to stop my treatment and do something that I'd wanted to do from the moment I'd been diagnosed and told by my consultant oncologist that I would never work again. I wanted to go back to work, as crazy as that sounds. So 3 weeks later, I was back at work, doing what I love to do, which is look after older people. I was then well for a period of 18 months, and that's really unusual in this cancer. I had a few problems, a few infections, a few stent problems, a few false alarms about progression, but I was okay. And during that time, we ticked lots of things off the bucket list. I went to work all the time. We really had a good quality of life considering what was happening. But then in September 2013, I started to feel unwell again. I developed some partial bowel obstruction type symptoms, and my scans showed really quite severe progression of my cancer. We had big decisions to make at that point about what was going to happen. I'd had a very good response to chemotherapy first time round, but I knew what the burden of the treatment was going to be. We decided on balance we would give it another go. I had 4 more cycles with all the same problems, but this time I started to develop multi-resistant organisms and serious infections that were more difficult to treat because of the amount of antibiotics I'd had. So that was the second round of chemotherapy. I finished that, and then I got 12 months decent quality of life out of it. I did really well during that time, progressed with my career, and even got to become an acting consultant in my specialty, which is what I'd spent 10 years of my life training to be, and was absolutely amazing. But during that time, I started to feel a bit unwell, and I knew the symptoms of progression by that point, and I knew my own body well enough to know that the lethargy that didn't get better with sleep and the night sweats and things were due to cancer. So I had a scan just before Christmas, and that showed progression as predicted. So we had a long discussion with my oncologist about what to do, because we couldn't use the drugs that had worked the first time round because we'd sort of maxed me out on my lifetime doses. So we had to use different medications, and one of the ones that we went for was really, really toxic in terms of vomiting, and I spent 2 days on the bathroom floor. I managed to have 2 cycles. I was in with serious infections. I had to give my own home IV antibiotics, and it was really tough, and I just decided that I'd had enough. I think I've probably come to the end of the road with chemotherapy. Unless I live another year or so, then I think we'll probably leave it be and let nature take its course now. So that's my story from a healthcare experience point of view. I've been through a lot of healthcare in that time, and I've had multiple urology operations, I've had lots of radiology interventional procedures, I've been on oncology, urology and gynecology wards. I've had lots of interactions with my GP, I've been to numerous outpatient clinics, pain clinics, specialist palliative care clinics, the whole shebang. And it's given me a lot of time to think, to stop and think about what is a good doctor, what makes a good nurse, what is care, what is compassion, what matters to me. And that time's been really useful in some ways, particularly reflecting on my own practice as a doctor, but also in my vast sharing of what's going on with my health to try and improve patient experience for others. And all those reflections kind of made me think hard about my own core values. It's very trendy to have values now. Most organisations in the NHS are developing their own set of core values. But I think it's important for us all to think about the values that we have as people as well as our organisational values. And mine are all kind of interlinked. The first is that communication really matters. When I have a good experience, it's usually because communication's been excellent. When I have a poor experience, it's usually all around communication being poor. I think anyone who deals with complaints in the room would agree that communication is vital in them. The second thing that really matters to me is that the little things that we do for patients can make the biggest difference sometimes. We all do tiny acts of kindness for our patients. We pour them a drink, we sit down next to them rather than standing over them, we might hold their hand when they're feeling upset. Those little tiny acts of kindness make a big difference, and they're what you remember as a patient and what you take away from your experience. I'll always remember the consultant oncologist who came in to see me on a Saturday evening. I felt very guilty that he'd had to come into work on that evening because of me, but he was so good. He did so many things for me that evening to get me better. But one thing that I remember is that he put his hand gently on my arm, kneeling down beside my bed, and said, "Kate, you're going to be okay, we'll get you through this." At one tiny moment, he'd sort of recognised how frightened and vulnerable I was and responded to it with compassion in a simple human way. So those little things that we can all do, they don't cost any money and they're really important. The third thing that really matters to me is person-centred care. Now this is becoming a buzz phrase around the NHS, but I'm not sure how often people actually stop and think about what it really means. Sometimes in my care I felt like I might have been on the periphery of what was happening, and the healthcare team were all busy making decisions and worrying about what they were going to do for me, but I wasn't included in that. I'd like to feel that I'm actually a part of my own healthcare team and be able to participate in decision making in true shared decision making style. That means a lot to me, and I want that. I recognise that not every patient would want that, but we do need to offer it to the patients that do. And my final key value is that I want to be seen as a person. I'm not that girl with DSRCT or bed 7. I'm Kate, and I've got a life and a family, and a love of playing my flute and baking cakes, and raising money for charity and writing and all these things, and being a doctor. All those things I would put far higher up the list of importance rather than cancer. So seeing our patients as people helps us to connect with them, and it can even help us to provide therapy. So I've got a patient who is a world record breaking speed knitter. Now unfortunately she developed dementia, and one of the things that we could do to help her when she was in distress wasn't to give her haloperidol, but was to give her a pair of knitting needles and a ball of wool. And it really worked. But if we didn't know that about that lady, then we couldn't provide that type of care. So they're my core values, and I always start talks with those and to tell you who I am as a person and a clinician. These are my stents. They're very important to me. They mean that I can live an independent, normal life, and I don't have to wander around with tubes sticking out of my back connected to bags, which is the most horrendous experience, having done it for 4 months. Unfortunately, the stents don't last forever, and they have to be replaced every 6 to 12 months with a little operation. And I had that operation in August 2013. Everything went very smoothly, and I was out of the hospital the moment the 4th set of observations had been done. Unfortunately, 36 hours later, I developed a fever and I was shaking and really quite unwell at home. So we ended up back in the emergency department, where I was triaged by a nurse that I used to work with. So it was lovely to see Katie and catch up with her. Then I was clerked in by a junior doctor who was one of the doctors. And it was quite hard to extract his name and his role, although I did manage it. Then I met a clinical support worker or a healthcare assistant, I'm not sure which, and she cannulated me and took my blood cultures, but she didn't really interact with me, and she didn't have a name. And then I met a nurse who put my antibiotics up. She didn't have a name. More importantly, she didn't check my name or my allergy status. And she was talking to another nurse about another patient the whole time she was doing it. So I felt like one of those mannequin arms that you get in clinical skills centres. And I really wasn't part of that interaction at all. Then I met Brian, and Brian restored my faith somewhat in the sense that he had a name. He was a porter. He noticed that I was in pain as I got on his trolley. He got me an extra pillow, an extra blanket to make sure that I was comfortable. And he took extra care pushing me over the bumps in the corridor in St James's. He was amazing. He talked to Chris and me so reassuringly throughout that short trip from the ED to the ward. I hate being pushed around a hospital that I know, sitting on a trolley in a gown, looking very vulnerable, knowing at every turn you might bump into somebody you know, and they might blank you, or they might have a very awkward conversation with you. It's horrible. But Brian took that anxiety away by talking to us. So he was doing those little things that patients remember and make the biggest difference. I was then in hospital for just under 2 weeks, having antibiotics, etc. And I met lots of people during that time. And I would say the majority of them didn't introduce themselves to me before they did things to me. The consultant on the post-take ward round assumed I knew who he was. I did, but that wasn't the point. Lots of nurses and healthcare assistants didn't introduce themselves. But I'll always remember Georgie. Georgie introduced herself. She was a newly qualified staff nurse, and she'd come in the morning and say, "Good morning, my name's Georgie. I'm looking after you today. Please buzz if you need anything, and can I get you anything just now?" It took her less than 30 seconds to say that phrase to everyone, but it made my day so much better, and I really hoped every day that she'd be the nurse that was looking after me. So one evening I was reflecting upon my experiences about the lack of introductions with my husband, and I think I might have been ranting. Maybe. Ranting shows passion, I think. And Chris simply told me to stop whinging, darling, and do something. So we did. That evening we had a conversation about what we could do, and we decided that I already had significant social media presence, and we could use that to good effect. So if you're going to start anything on social media, then you need to have a hashtag. So Chris coined the catchy hashtag, "Hello, my name is," and off we went. This is the first tweet I ever sent about the campaign. And it started us off on this massive journey that's led me here to be talking to you today. One of our friends is a designer, which is handy, and so he designed us a logo. And as part of that logo, we incorporated a smile, because it's not just about saying the words, it's about how you say them. And so that's why the smile is there as part of the Hello, My Name is logo. It's very hard to say hello, my name is and make eye contact with someone without smiling. I challenge you to try it. And then we wrote a blog about my experiences and invited people to pledge their support for the campaign in the sort of style of NHS Change Day, and soon thousands and thousands of people had read my blog. My clever brother, who's a whiz with computers, designed us a website where we could collate resources and information and pictures. And I started to be asked to write for various healthcare journals. So this is the BMJ, I've been interviewed for lots of other magazines. And all of a sudden I had a massive social movement on my hands. I don't quite know where that happened, but it did. People took the logo and the idea and the just the ethos of the whole campaign and really struck a chord with people. And it struck a chord with people universally across the NHS, no matter what sector they were working in. The logo started to pop up all over the place, in outpatient clinics, in emergency departments, on ward introduction boards. It popped up on lanyards. I see a lot of people wearing their Hello, My Name is lanyard today, people's name badges. And it really did start to snowball. The students started to have their selfie campaigns, and the ambulance service got involved, and the radiographers, and the logos popping up at conferences. And I went off to the International Forum for Quality and Safety in Healthcare in Paris, and I was lucky enough to go there because I had a poster accepted about my work. And when I got there, somebody said, "Oh, would you mind talking in our little social media meeting, Kate?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, that's fine." I stood up and said a bit about the campaign. But then I noticed that other people were talking about it, and the logo kept popping up on the big stage and things, which was really strange. And people kept coming up to me and saying, "Oh, you're Kate Granger, aren't you? Hello, my name is," and all this. And this is very strange. This is getting much bigger than I thought it was. And at that meeting we had some little stickers that we went round sticking on people's conference badges, and I managed to indoctrinate one of my own healthcare heroes, Don Berwick, which was very exciting for me, being a bit of a geek. At the time I was working at Leeds, and this campaign was born out of an experience in a Leeds hospital, so we were very keen that we would start a big campaign there and really try and engage staff. And so we made a pledge, and the pledge had 4 simple components: that we would always introduce ourselves to our patients, that we would always treat them with respect, that we would respect and dignity, that we would treat people as we would want our own family members to be treated. And as part of making that pledge, the staff received a name badge with the Hello, My Name is logo. And we also asked the staff to pose for photos. So this is our team on J27 where I used to work. This is our medical director, and Julian, our chief executive, in the blurry pictures got a name badge on there as well. And we started to talk about it. I gave 3 meetings like this, and every time they had a Leeds Way event, people were talking about it. It became part of the corporate induction to the trust, and really embedded. So 15,000 people work at Leeds Teaching Hospitals, and they've had 9,000 pledges so far, which I think is an amazing engagement from staff on something that we hadn't said. This is mandatory. We said we'd like you to do this because this is a core value that we'd like you to have, and the buzz around the hospitals when we started to launch was brilliant. I've spoken at a lot of conferences about my experiences. I closed the NHS Confederation conference last year, and we spoke at Expo last year as well, where we launched the inaugural Kate Granger Compassionate Care Awards, which is a set of awards that have been designed by NHS England and NHS employers with my name as part of my legacy, I guess, to celebrate compassionate care and what it means and how important it is. So we just received the shortlist of the nominations this year, and reading through the first few, I have no idea how we're going to come up with a decision, but I need to stay alive till September to present them as well, which is important. So I'm just going to show you a little video now of my colleagues at my current trust in mid Yorkshire showing their pledges and support for the campaign. So if you have a simple idea that costs no money, takes no time, virtually no time, and and improves patient experience, politicians want to be part of it. I think it's called getting on the bandwagon maybe. So we've been to number 10 and we've met David Cameron at number 10, and we told him about the campaign, and he did his photo call, and Jeremy Hunt's doing his photo call there. And we were lucky enough to go to the Scottish Parliament the early part of the year and meet Nicola Sturgeon, and NHS Scotland did a big event for us where I presented, and that was really good. If you turn to page 36 of the government's response to the Francis inquiry, then you'll find a box all about Hello, my name is as well. I did have a picture of Ed Miliband on this slide, but some people might think the next slide is a little bit gimmicky. But Chris has got lots of contacts, and we've met lots of people through my bucket list. So, for example, I wanted to go to a Kylie concert, and we managed to get Kylie to do it. And we went to Le Gavroche and met Michelle a few times, so it was nice that he participated. But I think it's quite nice to get popular culture involved in something that's important to everybody in society, and it gets people talking and raises profile on social media, so I think it's a good thing. It's very difficult to measure the impact of something like this. Although people are trying, people are using patient experience surveys, friends and family test results, there's junior doctors using traditional quality improvement methodology and sort of direct observation to see if the campaign's making a difference, and early results suggest it is making a big difference. There were some really interesting results at Leicester yesterday that were showing massive improvements. But I can't do that from Hello, my name is headquarters in Wakefield. I obviously have to have a wider view, and one of the wider views that I can take is how much people are talking about something on social media. And I think you agree these numbers are quite astounding, but they keep going up, and that's probably out of date now, and we'll probably hit 1 billion impressions quite soon. It's also been a massive part of NHS Change Day. It's a simple pledge that everyone can make, so it fits with their ethos very easily as well. We had an individual campaign pledge last year, and that attracted 20,000 people. And it was a big part of many people's pledges this year, and I took part in the Change-a-thon to talk about the campaign. The 2nd of February marked a big day in the campaign. It was a big day all round. I got up very early and I went to the BBC radio studios in Leeds, and I spoke to the Today programme, and then I did 5 live breakfast show. And then I had to get a bus up to St James's and I started my chemotherapy. I then continued my media commitments on the phone, until the afternoon when I had to ask the sister whether I could borrow her office phone to do the Jeremy Vine show. She said that was the most bizarre request she'd ever had. But I think it was important. We worked together with the Listening Into Action Network to have a big collaborative launch across the country, and they were kind enough to write to every single CEO of NHS organisations across the country and ask whether they'd like to support the campaign. And whether that be with a big bang launch with lots of press, etc., or something smaller within their hospitals, and we didn't mind, we just wanted a commitment. And we got over 100 positive responses back, which I think is amazing that the NHS as a whole seems to want to collaborate together, and that the press were interested in a positive news story about the NHS, which I think was a really good thing at a time when things are tough for everyone. So these are just a few of the pictures I got that day, and my phone was boiling hot from all the Twitter notifications. I had to keep it plugged in. So this isn't just a UK-wide phenomenon. There's lots of things going on across Europe. I've received quite a few tweets from Italy this week, where one of the hospitals there are promoting the campaign. It's going on in Spain, Germany and France. If you go to Johns Hopkins University Hospital in Baltimore, you'll hear watch a video made by me and get a name badge if you're a new doctor. There's some action in Canada, in Christchurch in New Zealand, Canberra in Australia. They've all got Hello, my name is badges. And Change Day Australia are really promoting the campaign. But it's also in places you might not expect. So there are some really enthusiastic people out there who are really passionate about Hello, my name is, and take it all over the world on their travels. So I received a really lovely email the other day from a volunteer who'd been working with the patients who have Ebola in Sierra Leone, and they were saying they'd thought about the campaign and what they could do, because they have a big physical barrier between them and their patients, but often their patients are dying and they try to show them as much compassion as they can. And they said one of the ways they'd thought about promoting the campaign was by having their faces on their protective equipment and writing their names on their hats. And I thought that was a lovely way of promoting the campaign in very difficult circumstances. So we're on tour. This is day 2. This is talk number 5. I'm still standing and I'm still speaking, so that's good. Chris had the idea for us to go on tour with the campaign after the February launch, because we wanted to keep momentum going. And one of the things that I think is powerful about this campaign is my story, and hearing my story firsthand. So we decided that we would try and see if anybody would want me to come. I receive a lot of requests to come and speak all over the country anyway, so we thought we'd try and work collaboratively and put a week's worth of events together. So I sent one tweet out and I got 73 invitations. We had to be selective about where we came, and one of the things that made us choose Cambridge was the fact that Matthew had said about doing a collaborative event across different services and across the city, so that made us feel quite that you were embracing the idea of the campaign altogether. So why does this matter? Why am I spending my time doing it? I believe, particularly in healthcare, but also in other settings, that an introduction is far more than just a common courtesy. I think you have a stressful situation, somebody in an alien environment, you need to build trust with them very quickly, and that you can do that by exchanging names. And somebody said yesterday, giving your name is like giving a little bit of yourself to a person, and building that human connection when somebody's vulnerable and frightened, and it really works. So I believe that it's far more than common courtesy. It's really about that therapeutic relationship that we have to build quickly often, and it's part of us providing compassionate care, really. I received this tweet a few months ago, and it made me a little bit worried that maybe the campaign was becoming all about a logo or badges or posters on a wall. And I'm absolutely determined that that is not going to happen. This is about individuals and culture. It's about individuals' behaviour and thinking about the person who's the patient. It's really, really vital that we try and think beyond just a disease process or a bed number. We're all under pressure, but we do need to do that, and this is kind of my plea to you today, to take that on board and share it with your colleagues. But more positively, this is a friends and family test card that was sent to me on Twitter from the person who wrote it. And I think you'll agree that the people in this card have connected with that person, that person remembers their names and how amazing they made their experience. So Hello, My Name is not just about us giving the patient a good experience, it's also about us having satisfaction in our work. And if we make connections with people and receive lovely feedback, and I think we can actually have a better experience of working ourselves. So it's a two-way thing. What does the future hold? Well, my future is very uncertain. I probably only have months to live, but who knows, my 4th cancerversary is coming up soon, and we just don't know what the future holds for me. But I still have ambitions as an ambitious individual, and I have an ambition for the campaign. So I would like to be able to walk into any NHS organisation and speak to any NHS employee, and then to know about the Hello, My Name is campaign and why it's important. I'm determined that people aren't going to feel sorry for me and become that tragic young doctor who died of cancer before her time. I really want to be remembered as somebody who's made a positive difference to the service that I love. So I'm going to shut up talking now and let you ask some questions. But no talk of mine would be complete without a tiny little plug for my books. Chris and I have been fundraising for the Yorkshire Cancer Centre since I was diagnosed. We wanted to pick a small local charity that really makes a difference to cancer patients, and having been on the receiving end of their amazing work, then they really do. So we're up to £170,000 now, and we'd like to make it £250,000 before I die. So if anyone does want a little read, then the books are available from the website. Thank you for listening. Yep, so in terms of the hearing, so Rotherham pioneered that. As part of Deaf Awareness Week, they combined it with the Hello, My Name is campaign, and they did a whole video on how to sign your name, which I think is great. And I love my new skill of being able to say my name if I met somebody who couldn't hear, and that would really help me to connect with a patient in that circumstance. In terms of vision, so I think the Hello, My Name is badges are fairly clear, but some trusts have been doing some work with their ophthalmic departments to find out what would be the clearest thing. And I was at Guy's and St Thomas's last week, and they were saying that they'd done some work and they've done their Hello, My Name is badges with a yellow background and black writing, quite bold black writing, and they felt that was the best thing. So there is definitely some work going on around that. In terms of children, I think, well, having done 2 months of A&E, paediatric A&E, you don't get away with it with kids, do you? Because they'll just say, what's your name? And they won't really let you get any further, I usually find. I think we're all a little bit more restrained as adults and just let it go, but children tend to be, it's a an innate behaviour, isn't it? Innate social behaviour. If you watch children in a playground who don't know each other, the first thing they do is exchange names. And you have to build trust with the child in healthcare very quickly, and getting down on the floor and saying your name's a really easy way to do that. Not sure about actual specifics. Sheffield Children's Hospital did a big campaign, and they had balloons and cakes and got the kids involved. And we did something at Pinderfields when we had our launch with the children who did their names. And there was a lovely one from a child who wrote her name with her, because she was very disabled, but she could write holding a pen with her foot, and she did her "Hello, my name is" sign, which was great. So there's definitely some work out there in paediatrics, and involving the patient population is fantastic in that. I think with a simple idea like this, I'm not sure it needs revamping. It's a simple message that is always going to remain the same. Obviously the campaign moves on, and we do more and more, and we meet more and more people, and people have more and more creative ideas of what to do. But I think the central campaign message remains the same, and it always should. The trouble with some campaigns in the NHS is they get a bit too complicated, and people start to add and add and add and add, and they lose their core message, and I don't want that to happen to Hello, my name is. It is what it is. I mean, nursing in general have been very interested, and I think as a body, the nurses have invited me to more things than anyone else. I'm not sure specifically about the RCN. Jane Cummins has been amazingly supportive of this campaign and promotes it every single place she goes. It seems I receive a tweet wherever she's talking that she's bigging it up. So I'm not sure specifically about the RCN, but if you've got any ideas, then... So there's been a tiny bit of resistance, very, very tiny. Some trusts perhaps saying, well, we do that anyway, and being slightly complacent about it. But then I'll receive tweets from patients who are receiving care in those trusts, and perhaps they're not. Everyone's doing it. So you need to go back with the evidence, I guess. And then there's the other attitude that's very, very uncommon, but I've come across once or twice, is that, well, I don't need to introduce myself. People know who I am. I would just say that is just irrefutably wrong. And I think if you change culture within an organisation to make it unacceptable to not introduce yourself, then people like that will stand out like sore thumbs, and they'll soon come into line. So one of the things we've done in Mid Yorkshire is have Hello, my name is champions. Now these aren't directors, high up people in the organisation. They're people who are on the front line delivering care and seeing what's happening in an organisation. And I've got a couple of healthcare assistants, a dementia support care worker, those kind of people, and they're really passionate about it, and they've taken it on as their role. And they're really promoting it, particularly within my own specialty of elderly medicine. So the champion route is a really good way to go if anyone does want to start promoting it. All go away and be champions yourself. Kind of in the style of Dementia Friends, I guess. Yeah. Going into hospital, no matter how good that hospital, is a dehumanising experience, because you are having invasive things done to your body. You are told when you can eat, what you eat, what time you sleep. You have your medication taken off you when you would normally manage that completely independently at home. So no matter how good the hospital, it is a difficult environment to be in. So thinking about your patients as people and getting to know them helps with that, I think. It helps reduce the distress around being in such an alien environment. mean, there's lots of things that, particularly around dementia care, which is my sort of knowledge base, where we find out who people are and use that information to improve their care. And that's really important, and I think we should be promoting work like that. I've not managed to reach out that far into social work yet. My social worker on our ward is really passionate about Hello, My Name Is, but I've not formally been to speak to any social work conferences or anything yet, and I think that is something that's really important, because people are going in and out of people's houses and meeting people in distressing circumstances, and it is important to connect. In terms of partner agencies, we have quite a presence in the police force now. And Sussex Police introduced the campaign, and they've even put it on their badges and things, and really sort of made a point of trying to get their police officers to introduce themselves to anyone they're meeting, and they've found that they've got reduced complaints about stops and searches after they started introducing themselves. So that was a good positive thing, and it's also had quite a presence in education. So teachers have been talking about it with young people in kind of sociology type lessons and writing about it. So it's interesting that it's spreading outside of traditional healthcare settings. I work quite hard with universities. I'm very active at Leeds University, particularly with a medical school. I was speaking at Huddersfield University the other day. I've got quite a few talks coming up with other student nurse cohorts. So the students are really passionate about this. 1,000 Lives in Wales have been really passionate about it and done loads of amazing work around it. So yeah, student nurses are really, and medical students and physio students and any healthcare students are a really important thing, and I do see that. So whenever I get invited, I try to go. So I get asked that question a lot, and I think part of it is if you put a service and a body of people under immense strain and take away the time that they need to interact with people, the first thing that goes are things like Hello, My Name Is, and we become very task orientated. You know, you get your jobs list as a junior doctor and you become very task orientated. You must get all these tasks done, but kind of the person behind all that gets a little bit forgotten. So time is always going to be an issue in the NHS, and resources are always going to be an issue, but I think giving us time to stop and have a bit of time to reflect on what's happening in our daily lives is really important. So sounds like an amazing job.
Hello Kate, my name is Ruth Taylor.
Hi.
I work at the university, the local university, Anglia Ruskin, so I was really pleased to hear one of our student nurses speaking. Funnily enough, yesterday I got an email from one of our midwifery students asking us to have the badges, and so it just so happens that I'm here today. And it's just a question as to whether you think give everybody the badges and hope that it all works, or, I mean, we've been talking about Hello, My Name's to the students anyway, or whether they should be making a pledge or doing something to gain the badge, if you see what I mean.
I personally believe that this is about pledging to change your own behaviour, and you can't just hand out a badge. I don't think that will work. I think badges are very important because we meet lots of people when we're being patients, and it's difficult to remember all their names. So if you've got a nicely placed, easy to read name badge, then that's a really important sort of additional thing, but the actual behaviour has to come from within, and you can't just stick that on, unfortunately.
So I just want to say two things, or three things maybe. One is, Kate left us a really good challenge, didn't she? She said, why don't we all become champions? So there is nothing stopping the 90 people in this room going back to their organisations and saying, I am now, Hello, my name is champion. You don't need anybody's permission. Why don't you just do it? So I think we could do that. I think we need to take that challenge of this is not just a logo, this is a movement, and this movement will make a change to what we do, how we operate, and then the impact on the patients and families that we operate. So I think if you're going to take away any message, that would be my message, is that's what we need to take back to our workplaces. And actually not just our workplaces, it's into life. I was asked by a train conductor when I was wearing my lanyard what that meant, and then he sat down and introduced himself. Thankfully I had a ticket, so all was good. But it meant I had a conversation with him, which I've never done on the train before, with a conductor. So there are a couple other things. When you leave, we have bought Kate's book for you, and she has really kindly signed them all. I will be checking eBay personally that you don't put it on there. So when you go upstairs, please take her book with you, sign it, read it, digest it, and enjoy it. And that will take something away from today. There is tea, coffee, cake upstairs. I just want to thank those that have organised today from my team who have been fabulous. So thank you to you who have put everything together. And more importantly, thank Kate and Chris for coming. We are going to do a photo. Thank you. And then last thing, if you look on Kate's wonderful website, you will see lots of inspiration. You will see lots of what she's done, but you'll also see a set of challenges that she wants to do. And we thought we'd just, as a sector, contribute to one of those. So Kate, we've bought you your one challenge, which is to go on a hot air balloon ride. So these are from you, from the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough area.
Oh, thank you.